She stood near the back door of the restaurant, holding a small, worn bag close to her chest. Her eyes kept drifting to the glowing kitchen window, where plates of food were stacked high. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, but it was her children's faces that haunted her most. Inside, the lunch rush was slowing. The smell of fried chicken and warm bread floated into the alley. Gathering courage, she stepped forward and softly asked a passing employee if there was any leftover food she could take home for her kids. The manager overheard her before the worker could answer. He was a tall man with a stiff uniform and an even stiffer expression. His face hardened instantly, as if her request had personally insulted him. He stormed toward her without asking a single question. "No beggars here," he snapped loudly, drawing attention from nearby staff. She tried to explain, her voice shaking, that her children hadn't eaten all day and that she was only asking for scraps. Her words seemed to fuel his anger instead of calming it. He grabbed her arm roughly and shoved her back toward the alley. The bag slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. She stumbled but didn't fall, holding herself upright through sheer desperation. Tears welled in her eyes, but she refused to cry out. "Get lost before I call the police!" the manager yelled, pushing her again. A few employees watched silently, unsure what to do. The alley felt suddenly colder, heavier, as if the walls themselves were closing in on her shame and fear. She bent down to pick up her bag, her hands trembling. At that moment, the distant sound of motorcycle engines rolled through the street. At first, it was just background noise, easily ignored, but the sound grew louder, deeper, and closer. One by one, large motorcycles pulled up near the restaurant. Leather jackets, boots, and helmets gleamed under the afternoon sun. The bikers dismounted calmly, their presence commanding without a single word spoken. People nearby paused, sensing a shift in the air. One of the bikers, a broad-shouldered man with kind but serious eyes, noticed the woman immediately. He saw her shaking hands, the tear-streaked face, and the manager still standing aggressively nearby. He walked over slowly, his boots echoing softly on the pavement. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked gently. The contrast between his appearance and his voice was striking. She hesitated, then nodded weakly, unable to trust her own words. The manager scoffed, trying to wave him away dismissively. "She was causing trouble," the manager said defensively. "Begging customers. I handled it." His tone was sharp, but it wavered when he realized all the bikers were now watching him closely, silently forming a loose circle. The biker didn't raise his voice. He simply asked, "Is that true?" The woman shook her head slowly. "I only asked for food for my children," she whispered. "I didn't mean any harm." Her words landed heavily in the quiet that followed. Another biker stepped forward, removing his helmet. "You know," he said calmly, "most of us grew up with nothing. Some of us wouldn't be here today if strangers hadn't shown us kindness." His gaze never left the manager's face. The manager's confidence crumbled. He tried to justify himself, muttering about rules and policies, but the words sounded hollow. The bikers didn't threaten him. They didn't touch him. Their disappointment was somehow far more powerful than anger. One biker pulled out his phone and quietly informed the manager that what he'd done could easily be reported. Another walked back into the restaurant and spoke to the staff, who quickly began packing meals into containers, their faces filled with guilt and resolve. They handed the woman several bags of warm food. She stared at them in disbelief, clutching the handles as if they might vanish. The biker with kind eyes also pressed some cash into her hand, telling her it was for groceries, not charity. She tried to refuse, but he shook his head. "For your kids," he said simply. Her shoulders finally relaxed, and she broke down in quiet tears, whispering thanks over and over. No one rushed her. No one told her to leave. Before they left, one biker turned back to the manager. "Kindness costs nothing," he said. "Cruelty costs more than you think." The manager stood frozen, surrounded by the consequences of his own actions. The engines roared again as the bikers rode away, leaving behind an alley that felt strangely lighter. The woman walked home with food in her hands and hope in her heart, knowing that sometimes help arrives from the most unexpected places.